Yo, you listen to the All Burgundy and Gold Everything, powered by the Urban Sports Scene and Fox Sports Radio 1340 AM and 96.9 FM. I'm Glenn, and joining me tonight right now is George. George, what's going on, my brother?
Oh man, there's not many things that can pull me away from college basketball at this point of the year. But when the Laremy Tunsil news hit as I was driving around this afternoon, I went, "Oh!" And I was immediately pulled over to YouTube and listening to some other Commanders content creators talking about it. Oh, I'll tell you what, they kept the lid on that one because there wasn't one rumor, there wasn't one hint, there wasn't one nothing about Laremy Tunsil. That is a wow. There's no denying it, and this whole day's been a wow since.
It's been a while since, but we're gonna get into that a little bit later. We're gonna get into that as soon as let me get the particulars out the way. Hey, subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms. Just search All Burgundy and Gold Everything. Also tweet us at ABG_everything and hit us up on IG and TikTok at ABG_everything. Also, make sure you subscribe to our All Burgundy and Gold YouTube channel as well. If you're feeling generous, hit us up with a super chat on YouTube, and we'll definitely prioritize your comments. Also, we're streaming live on the Urban Sports Scene X account. Hey, it's time for the pregame. Here's what we got on tap for you today. We're going to talk about the Washington. We're going to talk about the players that the Washington Commanders re-signed. We're going to talk about Commanders trade moves. We can talk about the new additions to the Washington Commanders. Hey, we got a lot to talk about, George. But before we get into the Laremy Tunsil and the Javon Kinlaw, let's talk about the players that the Washington Commanders re-signed, right? We know they re-signed Zach Ertz, got to re-sign. Bobby Wagner got re-signed to a one-year deal. John Bates re-signed. Zane Gonzalez also re-signed. Tressway, my man, Tressway. Can't get rid of Tressway in Washington. And this was a surprise to me. Running back Chris Rodriguez Jr. also re-signed with the Washington Commanders. George, talk about the re-signings and what they mean to you and mean to the Commanders. Trying to keep everything, try to keep continuity in the organization and try to keep things solid going into next year.
Well, Bobby Wagner, I got to start there because talk about leadership. Talk about setting a tone and an example in the locker room. That man has done that from pretty much the first second he set foot in there. So I was certainly thrilled to have him back. I presume that he's continuing his masters that he's studying at Howard University. Shout out the real HU. What a fantastic thing that is. But just to have a guy like that back, presence alone. We're not even talking about what he's produced on the field, which amazingly he seems to continue to win the battle with Father Time. Presence alone, the knowledge that he has, the way he can help these younger linebackers, just tremendous. And you can say the same thing for Zach Ertz on the other side. Same thing. No matter what he does on the field, that experience, that know-how, and the winning attitude and the winning kind of and the leadership qualities that he has, just really tremendous to have them back. The John Bates thing surprises me. I know he's a very good blocker. I quite frankly hate it when he's in the pattern and not blocking because not the best hands around, but they do value him as a blocker. I am concerned that it means we're not going to see Ben Sinnott develop as much as we would like in year two. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm kind of glad to see Chris Rodriguez got back, and I think you know what a frustration it was that he didn't get as much of a chance at the end of the season as I would have liked. So I'm glad to see him back, although, again, I'm guessing he's going to face a tough battle to stay with his team in camp. So the re-signings are pretty good. I'm glad to have Tressway back. I'm not as sure about Zane Gonzalez. I certainly hope there is a camp battle with a drafted kicker or an undrafted free agent kicker or just some other random kickers, plural. But in general, the Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz re-signings were absolutely huge to me. They had to be done, and they got them done. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, I'm a big Bobby Wagner fan. I'm talking about Bobby Wagner years ago, right? I've been talking about Bobby Wagner for a while. I think the Bobby Wagner re-signing is big for the organization, but also for the locker room, right? The locker room, the leadership you talked about, the leadership that he had in this locker room. Bobby Wagner came in and he's one of the guys that changed the culture of this locker room when he first came in to Washington. One of the guys that Dan Quinn looks to. I think when Washington was going through that little slump, he pulled everybody together and told them, hey, let's get back to what we do. and get back to playing football. And he got back to playing football. The Zach Ertz one, I really like that because Zach Ertz came on late in the season, especially when Noah Brown got hurt. It seemed like Zach Ertz became Jayden Daniels more of his security blanket, right? He became Mr. Reliable towards the end of the season with Jayden Daniels, and they started to build that chemistry. And I think as much as you can keep things consistent offensively with Jayden Daniels is going to help him out as well. The Zane Gonzalez, I mean, he did win the playoff game, but we know the Washington Commanders went to about 5 kickers last year anyway. So, it's good to sign him. But again, I don't see there should be a competition. Put it that way. There should be a competition for kicker to see if he's really the real deal. Tressway can never get rid of Tressway, right? This dude has to retire a Washington Commander, a Washington Redskin, whatever you want to call us. Tressway has to stay with his organization and has to retire in this organization. And then Chris Rodriguez, you mentioned in Georgia, I was going to say the same thing. I'm surprised they signed him, but it's going to be a battle at running back, right? It's going to be a battle at running back for him or whoever else to make this team. I like Chris Rodriguez, had good carries. And at the end of the season, we did try to look for where's Chris Rodriguez at, right? Where's Chris Rodriguez? Because we thought I was the better back at the times. But I guess this organization wants to keep him around just one more year and see at least a training camp to see how things go. So those are the key right now, the current re-signings that the Washington Commanders did. There's going to be some more coming down the road here shortly. And we'll just stay here. We'll break those down for you as well and tell you who are some of the key signings for the Washington Commanders. But I want to get to this part, man. Washington made some trades, right? Some trades because they made some draft picks. We talked about it a little bit last week on last week's podcast, how the Washington Commanders traded for Deebo Samuels, who is now the Washington Commanders. They gave up a 5th-round pick, which I thought was a steal for Deebo Samuels. I thought it was a steal. But they also made a big trade today, right? They made a huge trade today. As you mentioned, as you alluded to, we're going to talk about it. Y'all here to talk about it. No one knew it. Nobody saw it coming. All right. It was no Paul Heyman spoilers. All right. It was none of that stuff. It was just a reality. It was just a fact, right? The fact of the matter is that Laremy Tunsil is now a Washington Commander. You may not remember he was a 1st-round draft pick, right, for the New York Jets. He went down to 1st-round draft pick. Then he went down to Houston for several years. All pro. Only one of the top linemen in the NFL. We talked about getting the lineman in the draft last week, George. We talked about what we had Donna on, and Donna talked about the Washington Commanders need a defensive lineman or offensive lineman, right? Well, I would like to see Donna.
They better. She didn't just say they need it. She said they better, or there's going to be trouble.
They better. He's top 5 top 5 left tackle. If you look at the stats, he's really number 2 on this list. Out of all the snaps played, he is number 2. And that's Laremy Tunsil. George, your thoughts before we get deeper into it. How surprised were you to see the Washington Commanders and Adam Peters, right, make this move? You alluded to it. Nobody saw it coming. It came like an RKO. It came out of nowhere.
Well, and remember when he got traded before? I think it was 2 1st-round picks that he netted. Nobody saw that coming when he got traded before. Mm-hmm. I think it was right before he got I think it was like the year before he became an All-Pro. And this is, again, here he is. He's been this stalwart at Houston. Been a great left tackle by most of the metrics you'd see. And nobody, like I say, there wasn't one rumor. Like there were people talking about Deebo Samuel for quite a while. And it wasn't just, we're just guessing this. There were people that were talking about it as in there were serious discussions about Deebo Samuel. Not here. And Adam Peters like a thief in the night. I wonder how many people were asking about Laremy Tunsil, or how many people even knew that he was available, because there ain't a lot of teams that are set at left tackle in this league. Let's be honest. Everybody that's seen the sack numbers know that. So how in the world did Adam Peters get in here and do it? Not giving up a 1st-round pick. Gave up a lot of picks. No question about it.
Gave up 4 picks. We gave up 4 picks.
We got 4 picks, and I think we got 1 pick coming back this year. Yeah. It was 2 this year and 2 next year. I was absolutely floored. But let's remember something. When we talk about what happened today, what have we been talking about quite literally since the gun was fired at the end of the Eagles Commanders NFC Championship game. We have been talking about the trenches.
Yeah.
Everybody on TV, in print, on the radio, on this platform, on other platforms, we have all been talking. I mean, Donna Hopkins, I've never seen her more agitated about something than she was last week. She was not having it. We are not taking no running back or no this or no that in round one. It better be a lineman and she's right, because we all know what happened in that championship game.
But now
This
you can
team got its tail kicked in the trenches.
But now with the top 5 linemen and you secure the offensive line, you could take a lineman. You could take a running back if you want to. You can take a steel guy.
You certainly could.
I remember I said it may be done before free agency. We talked about that. Real quick, I'm going to let you finish. 25, the Washington Commanders gave up their 3rd round and 7th round pick. And then on 26, they gave up their 2nd and 4th round pick. So those are picks they gave up for Laremy Tunsil. But go ahead.
And and that's the thing. It's like now you have options, because we were going in this seat. We were going after that game, and we were like, okay, Brandon Coleman had a good year at left tackle, but we're not sure. Let's be honest, we're not sure. Sam Cosmi's got a serious injury. I've been saying it for a while. I think other people have been picking it up. I'm looking at next year as a redshirt year for Sam Cosmi. If it's me, he's not going to be on the field next year, because we've just given him a long-term contract. He's a great guard. We all know he's a great guard. Stud, heal up, and we'll see you in 2026. That's my view on the matter. And I've seen other people picking that up. So we had questions. We had a lot of questions on the offensive line. Right tackle, Andrew Wiley, not sure about him. Backup center, all these other things. Now you got options. Brandon Coleman, you can kick to guard, which is something we might very well do. Or you can kick him to right tackle, which I think we've discussed on this very show, if I'm not mistaken. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, Laremy Tunsil's not on a lot of money beyond this coming season. So if it turns out he's lost something, we're not, we've traded a lot of picks. We don't have to blow our cap up. And if it turns out he's still good, we will pay him. And we will pay him handsomely, and we will be happy to do it. So I am over the moon about this, to be honest, because today Adam Peters has clearly addressed the issue that caused us the most problems against Philadelphia. And so I think he's got a similar mindset to most Washington fans, which is everything we're doing to try to beat the Eagles, because that's who we need to beat.
Yeah, you definitely got to be Eagle too. You want to shoot up the offensive line. You want to make sure that you can have a running game, right? I think somebody said it here in the chat. I think it was Paul who said it here in the chat. You don't want Jayden Daniels to be rushing for over 800 yards, right? You want your offensive linemen. You want your running backs. You want next year your running backs, your Austin Eckler's, your Brian Robinsons. You want those guys to have the best year. You don't want Jayden Daniels to get touched, right? And you don't want Jayden. You don't want to give up any sacks. That's the key there. You don't want to give up any sacks. You don't want Jayden Daniels to get touched. So you shore up your offensive line, right? Everybody said it. We talked about Donna saying it. Mo said it last week. I'm gonna bring Mo in so he can come in. I'll chime in a little bit with us about this. We talked about it last week, but Jayden Daniels not getting touched, and Washington did that today. They shored up the offensive line. Now everybody has to get healthy, right? Biotis would still be your center. You can, as you mentioned, you can bring Coleman in. You still got you got Wiley that out there they can work in. So you got different linemen now. They can play offensive line. Coach can play and see what matches up, what works well best for this offensive line and for this team to be successful, right? And not to mention, if you keep get a Jayden Daniels who can stay upright, with a Deebo Samuel who's been added to this team, and with a Terry McLaurin that's been with this team, then now you have weapons, the deep threat down the field, or your short dumps with just Zach Ertz to get people in space. So you have to make sure, today you got to book in. We all know that if you're a left tackle in this league, you're a top 1 or 2 left tackles or top 5 left tackle, you're gonna get paid, right? I mean, we haven't had a left tackle like this since Trent Williams, right? And I think Tunsil and Woolley was here. He probably said, Trent Williams was that guy, but I think today we kind of replaced that guy with another guy. Mo, your thoughts?
Man, absolutely. It was a shocker when it came across the ticker, but we talked about this this offseason, whether there was going to be an addition, right? We thought it was going to come the free agent route, but nobody thought trade, and because of how well this team drafted last year. But here you are with a top 5 regarded tackle over the course of the last couple of years, where he's been all pro, first team and second team. Last year he had a bit of a dip in his production, but still, if you can get a bookend left tackle to protect Jayden's blind side, now you get to take the 3rd round pick, Brandon Coleman, you move him inside right where Sam Cosmi was, right? Because Sam Cosmi is going to be coming back from injury next year. This gives Cosmi enough time to recover all the way. He doesn't have to rush because of the period in time in which he got hurt last year. Or if Cosmi doesn't play at all, you have somebody that's familiar with the offense. He's just going to look at it from another angle, but he's also going to look at it from a position of comfort because this is a place that he played in college, right? So now you shore up 4 positions on the offensive line, right? 4 out of the 5 are shored up. You have Biotis, who played at a high level last year. You have Laremy Tunsil, in which he's coming back he's coming to a new team. He's going to have to get in the rhythm and fall in line with what everything is going here. And plus, he's probably seeking a contract extension, right? Probably one last payday for his career, so he wants to perform. So that's he's highly motivated. We've seen what he's done in the past. It's going to be a drastic improvement than anything that's been there over the course of the last 3 to 4 years since Trent left, right? So this is a win. This is a win. It cost you a second next year and a 4th next year, right? And a 3rd and a 7th this year, correct? But that's the price to pay for a player like this, right? That's the kind of price you pay for a guy that's been all pro multiple times before. So a lot of people have been talking about the moves that Adam Peters has made. And, like he fielded a team last year and, the Deebo Samuel, but like Deebo Samuel had question marks coming off of injuries, this is a bona fide move. This is a move that proves that we are here to protect our guy. We are all in. We are going to try to give this thing a shot before our quarterback becomes too expensive. And we have to pull off something like what the 49ers are dealing with right now and having to dump salary and lose everybody, right? So this is a win. This is Adam Peters' boldest move, if you ask me. This is his boldest move. Yeah. It does leave the team hamstrung for picks because now they're only down to their first and second for this year, right? The 3rd is gone. The 4th was gone for Lattimore. The 5th is gone for Deebo, but
they have 5 picks. They get 5 picks. They still have 5 picks left.
Yeah, they have 5 picks left. So it'll be 1st, 2nd, and then probably a couple of 6s.
A couple of 7s. They got
a couple of 7s.
The 1st, 4th, the 1st, 5th, and 7th, and there's another one in there too. They get back.
I think this was a big time move. This is a big time move. This is how you show the fan base that you are all almost all in, that you are invested, that you're ready to go, and you're going to give this thing a shot. This is a win.
Yeah, when we talk about this, we'll get to Kinlaw in a minute, but I want to answer some of the questions in the chat here. I want to start with Tim. Tim's question. Tim asked me, how are they going to replace Jeremy Chin? We'll get to some of the guys that left. We know Jeremy Chin had gone. He left Washington today. De'Ami Brown went to Jacksonville today. So he's gone out of Washington. So that De'Ami Brown can stop. But how are they going to replace Chin? I like Javon Holland out of Miami.
You went for the gusto immediately,
right? Hey, you got to go best player on the board right now, and that's who's on the board, right?
Best player on the board.
He's the best player on the board. So if you want to make moves, and this team want to make moves with the salary cap that they have, you go get the best free agent out there right now, right? Well, what's his name? Went to Indiana.
Tavarius Ward, who I was kind of hoping we were going to get.
Tavarius Ward went to Indiana. Hey, Indiana, I think they overpaid for him, if you ask me. He got a 3-year deal, $76 million deal. I don't think Washington was going to pay that type of money for him being a safety. I just don't think they were going to pay that type of money, 3-year, $76 million deal. But if you ask me, I think Javon Holland is the guy that if Washington looking to replace Jeremy Chin and to solidify that back half, that's the guy that you want to go after and get.
I have a player out there. For the back half. I think on a lesser tier than Javon Holland, because I think Javon Holland's going to yield a lot of money. So I don't think he's realistic. But there's a Justin Reed out there, right, who has Super Bowl experience, right? He has Super Bowl experience. He's been a starter his whole career. His brother was a former All-Pro. He has been a formidable talent in his own right. He's been smart. He's smart, productive. He's durable. He's only 28 years old, right? He's been a big part of the Chiefs' defense and part of why they been going to Super Bowl. He doubles as an extra kicker on kickoff. You know what I mean? He does have that ability. He's just a veteran presence that's seen multiple systems and can fit in anywhere. So I think that him still being out there, that's the interesting piece. I don't see that he'll cost that much money or compared to what Javon Holland will cost, because this is Javon Holland's first big deal, first time in free agency. So he's going to be seeking to break the bank. And given what some other safeties have made that are of lesser value than him, such as like Cameron Bynum from the Minnesota Vikings, who agreed to a 4-year, $60 million deal earlier, his deal is going to be closer to $20 million than not, right? He is the prized possession of this free agency class in terms of a defensive player in the secondary. So I think that there's multiple avenues. There's a lot of, like, I think if Adam Peters finding Jeremy Chin last year, there's other players, lesser players that he could probably fill in that role, or that could be one of the guys that gets drafted in, you know what I mean, and put in the safety place, and it'd be a homegrown talent that can be a part of this system and can grow with this system, because it seems like, there's a lot of veterans around him. He'd only be he'd be the youngest person on one side, but there's only like 3 young people on the whole defense. So.
Right. Paul says Reed, and Paul, I think you talking about Justin Reed. Justin Reed from Kansas City. He's looking to get paid too, though. He's looking to get some money, right? Everybody's looking to get paid today. I think Jeremy Chin, I'm not mistaken, I'm looking it up now. Jeremy Chin got 2 years, $16 million from the Las Vegas Raiders. Right?
And we said that. We said somewhere around $7 million or so. I mean, I think when we was guesstimating what his value would be, because of what he came to this team with last year, we knew he was going to probably want a multiple-year deal, so he wouldn't have to play the 1-to-1 year. So good for him. He came in, he did what he was supposed to do. He was very serviceable. He was good for this team. He put something on film. And the price tag was just too much because of clearly what Adam Peters had cooking, right? Laremy Tunsil does, they traded all that for Laremy Tunsil, so there is a price tag that comes with that. Deebo was $17 million, even though you freed up the money from John Allen, right? You also signed Kinlaw today, right, at $15 million per average. So like we discussed, like, they weren't going to bring in as many people as they brought in last year, because the price tag for each person this year was going to be a lot more than what happened last year with the 1-year deal. So I think they're going to be very conservative in that approach, and they'll probably let the draft. And now what I see is a lot of the things that George was talking about on the last show in terms of draft positioning. I can absolutely see this team going back in the draft now, because now you have to fill those middle rounds, and which is where Adam Peters really likes to do his work.
It is.
Nothing is certain. Nothing is certain in life, but for me, that's as close to a certainty as there'll be, is that we're going to move back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's going to get for the picks that he has left. I thank Paul for putting it out there. The first, the second, the fourth, sixth, and the seventh pick. He's going to try to move back. That first round may be gone at 29. If you go to the second round, you drop down to 32, 34. What actually are you really losing, right?
Right.
If you gain,
still a first round talent.
Right, still a first round talent that just slid down. So if he gets there, you're going to get some picks. Hey, Tim, we getting there, man. Tim, you're jumping the gun, but we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there, right? We're gonna get there, right? Mo alluded to it, but we're gonna get there. But I think he'll get some picks too. But let's get there for Tim, man. Everybody else, what? Hey, Kinlaw is effectively the Allen replacement. I think he is, right? He had one of the better seasons last year. He had a better season last year, 4 sacks, tackles for loss. His productivity was high. Here it is. You get about the same type person. I know Wooly will argue with me, but you get the same type person. He has a high motor, right? He has a high motor type kid, high run stopper that you can get a little bit younger and at a less price tag than Jonathan Allen. You take the kid, and guess what? The kid has you look at him, so you take that guy, former first round pick, right? Former first round pick, really didn't pan out in San Francisco. Went to the Jets, Jets last year, but that whole Jets organization, was what it was.
It was what it was.
It was what it was, right? You fire your coach, you fire your head coach, your man after 4 weeks of the season, and then he's playing with an interim coach all year, and then the whole Aaron Rodgers debacle, and so yeah, I think Kinlaw can be very productive here on this Washington defense. A high motor type guy that can go after get the ball, who can be a run stopper that can kind of help Payne in, help Payne out a little bit. I think it complements Payne and the way they would look at it. But you guys' thoughts?
George.
Javon Kinlaw, I'm excited because Adam Peters knows this guy. He was part of the group that drafted this guy in the first round. I think 8th overall is my recollection. Am I wrong? I might be overstating it a little, but it was that drafted in the top half of round 1 is what I remember. And I definitely remember him in South Carolina. He was a freaking wrecker when he played for the Gamecocks.
He was the 14th overall pick.
14. So I was overstating a little bit. And I think we had to do. I mean, we talked about defensive tackle. The only thing that surprises me is, given the draft class, I kind of thought that's where they were going to go to replace Allen, was to take a tackle either in round 1 or round 2. Obviously, the comfort level that Adam Peters has. And I think when you talk about arriving violently, which is something that our defensive coordinator, Joe Witt, likes to talk about, I've seen Javon Kinlaw do that plenty. I am looking forward to seeing him. And I think, Mo, you had some interesting – we were talking about it in the group chat. I think it's fair to say that, yes, maybe Johnny Newton isn't as far along as we like. But I still like the fact that that's a rotational piece, that you can rotate him in, that you can keep him fresh for the fourth quarter. Because, look, in the league that we're in now, you've got to have 3 or 4 really good D tackles, because you're going to be rushing the passer a lot. And you don't want them sucking wind in the fourth quarter and struggling, especially if they're having to go and get that dadgum quarterback all the time. So from that perspective, I still think Newton is a major part of this team's plans going forward.
Not only going to go get the quarterback, George, but we saw last year, with Washington, as a lot of teams started running the ball heavily in the fourth quarter on Washington. So because the defensive line got tired, right? So if you have a rotation, you have rotational D linemen, they can stay as fresh as possible. The Kinshaw deal, according to the AP, right, Associated Press, is a 3-year, $45 million deal. So you're looking at about $15 million a year, which is saving you money from the Jonathan Allen situation. So,
man, when the Kinlaw deal came up, my first reaction was they overpaid, right? Knowing about his, we'll just say his failures in San Francisco, or him not living up to that first round talent, being a top 15 pick. As I looked into it, I was like, all right, what does that say to me? I was like, I wasn't expecting a $15 million D tackle, right? I wasn't expecting a $15 million D tackle. Like we said, we thought it'd be a draft, but we didn't know what was going to happen with the Laremy Tunsil trade later on, where picks would be gone and whatnot. But from that standpoint, I was like, that might have been a reach, right? Because yes, he flashes, but I think the Commanders need a consistent play, right? Consistent play at the D tackle because of the deficiencies of another one that I won't name today. I'll just play nice today, right? I'll play nice today. So I thought
he played better. Yeah. The unnamed D tackle played better last year.
Right. So that's better than, all right, $22 million is the price tag. That's all I know. But I thought about it and I was like, all right, does that mean that somebody is like on the verge of being out? Is this an insurance policy for, see what it plays out this year? Because $22 million can't keep being on the roster, keep producing 4 sacks, and keep running up that gap because of the way that they were blistering the defense last year in the middle of the defense. So I was thinking like, all right, if it doesn't mean that, then it means that Johnny's not what we think he is, right? So now all of these questions arise, and I wonder if he's coming in with the assumption that he's a starter, or if he's coming in to compete. Because then that tells us something else, right? If he's coming in to truly compete. But $15 million price tag says that he has to be a viable player, So now I think that Commanders fans have to consider that. Like, either Johnny Newton isn't what they think he is, or because he is a smaller D tackle, right? Now Kinlaw is like a prototype D tackle, 6'5", 320. You know, he has all the talents. That's why he went first round. So it leads me to believe that there's probably going to be a competition in camp. And if there's a competition in camp, $22 million is probably going to come off the books either some point this year, because that's a lot of money to be sitting and be rotational, right? But when I think of Kinlaw, like last year, had 4.5 sacks, right? And like the only thing that worries me about him is he's not devoid of playing with talent. When he got drafted on that San Francisco line. He was playing with Eric Armstead. He was playing with because he was drafted in, I believe he's the one that replaced DeForest Buckner, correct?
Yeah.
Well, so he was playing with Eric. He was playing with Eric Armstead and Nick Bosa, and that wasn't fruitful. So you'll give him, okay, he was young, right? Okay, he was young, and then he went with a couple of years where he bad luck with injuries, right? 2 straight years he didn't play more than 6 games, and then he finally played 17 games, and it was lackluster once again. So San Fran didn't pick up his 5th-year option. They decided to let him go. He winds up with the Jets, and in the Jets he's there playing next to All-Pro Quinnen Williams, and he starts 17 games, and he has 4.5 sacks. So the only improvement I can see there is that his physical stature is going to help him and allow the Commanders to have a better run stopper than what they had last year. So if that's a benefit that he brings to the team, then amen, because this team could not stop the run to save their life last year. And with Saquon in division, right? Even Tyrone Tracy was getting a little bit off on them a couple of times from the Giants. I don't know how Rico Dowdle fared against them, but like we know that the run game, the defending the run game was a detriment to this defense last year. So hopefully he should come in, and with the $15 million price tag, he should be an upgrade there, at least in the run game. All D tackles are not created equal in attacking the quarterback, so I won't hold him to that until I see him in a Commander's uniform and see how he's employed. But he should come here with a $15 million price tag. The expectation should be that this run defense is overhauled and they are making strides in the right direction.
And if it's not, you blame Joe Witt. And let's be honest. If with what you have now and with the talent that's going to be on this defense, with guys who are coming back with the Bobby Wagner resigning, with the Javon Kinlaw, with a healthy Daron Payne, with a Johnny Newton, with this defensive line that you have, it depends on the edge rusher. If this defense is still lasting a run next year, Johnny Newton's head should be Joe Witt's head should be on a swivel, because guess what? It is going to be his fault, because you're going to have to get these guys. They can't make excuses now, right? And I'm not saying they did make excuses. Everybody will be in place for OTAs, right? Everybody will be in place for training camp. So you have the opportunity of time. You can't say I just took this job, right? And we're getting to know the personnel. A lot of personnel is coming back. You have some new personnel coming in. So there's no excuse for this defense to be last against the run next year, or it's not the defense, it's Joe Witt's problem. Because if this was Jack Del Rio would be saying the exact same thing, right?
Yes, we would.
We would say the exact same thing. We would be blaming Jack Del Rio, right, for the defense underperforming. So it's going to be a Joe Witt situation to get these guys that you're bringing in. Adam Peters is bringing in some run stoppers. He's bringing in guys that are going to help you out on the defense, or he's also sign guys that he think that can help this defense. So it's now up to Joe Witt, his staff, to make sure that this team doesn't get run on like they did this year. So with that being said, I know they're adding pieces. They still adding pieces. We'll ask you guys this question. The guys in the chat, let me know too. How much has this team closened themselves to the Philadelphia Eagles just as today alone, right? Has they closed that gap by what they've done in free agency on day one?
Are we counting the Deebo trade?
We count the Deebo trade as well. Count the Deebo trade. Washington right now, everything Washington has done so far, has they closed the gap to get closer to the Philadelphia Eagles, who is the Super Bowl champions?
I would have to say so. The Philadelphia Eagles lost Josh Sweat today. They lost Darius Slay. I'm pretty sure they feel good about Cooper DeJean plugging them in over there. But That's a loss of a veteran, a former All-Pro, Pro Bowl corner. Sweat was a vital part of their pass rush last year. So with Laremy Tunsil being added to this team and providing what everybody expects to be no problem on the left at the left tackle, right? We're expecting that to be clean, that position, because Brandon Coleman almost played it really clean last year. So Laremy Tunsil should be, if Laremy Tunsil is the upgrade that everybody believes that he's going to be, that should be handled. Pass rushers should be handled, especially primary pass rushers, right? We already know about Jayden's legs, so now this should buy some more time to find more people. He was already the most efficient rookie quarterback that ever existed. So you add that element there. Now his blind side is protected. Brandon Coleman bumps in, and now they probably get a bigger to what you said to your point about the Philadelphia Eagles. Now Brandon Coleman is a bigger guard with his stature and his athletic ability and his ability to pull, right? So that should fortify the interior some more also, and provide some nastiness in the run game on the offensive side, right? Deebo Samuel coming in provides you a better number 2 wide receiver than what was on this roster completely, no matter what he went through in San Francisco. It's still to be seen because he does get hurt. He doesn't miss a lot of games, but he does play hurt a lot, and that can affect your efficiency. But that's a piece right there. Now the Eagles have to keep concern themselves about too. It's an extra piece on offense that if you're not paying attention, he will make a big play, right? And then you look at the what was the other? Kinlaw. Kinlaw, if he's here to do what he's here to do, he's a bigger body to match the bigger bodies of the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, which should be a stalemate for most possessions, right? And allow linebackers to flow a little easier and flow a little bit more fluid to get to the ball. Of course, they have to make the play when they get there, but I would have to say this does shrink the gap between them and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles are still reigning supreme because they're the defending Super Bowl champions, but with all the talent that Jayden Daniels displayed last year, you're fortifying the offensive line. You're providing somebody that's supposed to be a key player in run defense, which the Philadelphia Eagles team is built on, is running the football, right? You got a big guy in the middle now. Them tush pushes shouldn't be as simple, right? Because they extend plays there. There's no way a person can say that this team hasn't closed the gap on Philly. Now, how big of a gap have they closed is to be seen, but right on paper today, you have to say that these moves are helping them get closer to Philly.
Before you answer, George, I want to give some of the chats. Hey, Sean, man, we thank you for stumbling onto the page. Man, just hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification, man. We appreciate you. I hope we just talking Commanders, man. Commanders fans or Commanders football fans, because Mo ain't a Commanders fan. He might as well, he honorary member. We're talking about this. Taj put something in here, man. I put up earlier. And George, you can give your answer, but I also want to talk about this. Taj says this: the team has gotten tougher. Deebo, Tunsil, moving Coleman to another O-line spot. They got tougher, but still need more talent. I agree with that statement. Still a little bit more talent, got a little bit tougher. George, your thoughts?
I'm spot on. I call today a good start. It is a good start on closing the gap, but we still have a lot more work to do. I think you could argue we still have more work to do on both lines. I think we're all kind of wondering what's going to happen at edge, aren't we? I think at this point, the whole Hendrickson thing is still out there. Granted, I kind of think we're out of that race now, in my view, because I just don't see us trading another draft pick away, especially a high first rounder and more picks in 2026, which is what we'd have to do to get Trey Hendrickson. So this is a good start. Everything Taj said, absolutely right. Everything Mo said, absolutely right. But we can't be finished in this, and we know how he's watching what we're doing, and he's cooking something up. Or I think he's gonna try to. We'll see. They've also been very good at the draft. They've taken advantage of a lot of the team's mistakes in the draft. So that's going to be the next question: is can we go to the draft and close that gap further? And it's going to be tough because we don't have a lot of picks right now, which is why we think Mo and I and probably many others at this point think moving back is going to happen. But this is a really good start. And I'm just happy that Adam Peters saw what happened in January and said we are not going to have a repeat of this, or at least I'm going to do my level damn best to make sure that doesn't occur again.
That's a fact. I think you have to think this is a good start, fan or no fan. Just being a fan of football, right? You have to think this is a good start. The team still has money, Glenn. The team still has a lot of money. All right, it's like nobody's gotten an outlandish contract, so it's to be seen what the extension for Laremy Tunsil will be. But there's still holes to fill. There's still those mid-tier free agents, those lower level free agents that come in and fill in on special teams and have some value. And that's for Adam Peters and his team to select carefully and add on to this team, because we have to operate as if we don't know that they're going to get much in the draft until we know what they get in the draft. All right, until something changes. So starting today, there's still some holes at the end, right? And you still hold the 29th overall pick, whether they move back or not. Like I said, it's to be determined, but there's room there. There's room there, especially if they trade back and get a top 10 pick in the second round. That'll just be an extension of the first. And then you see how that shakes out. But they're like last year's signings like Cleveland Farrell, they're those level type of players that are still waiting there that can come and be depth additions until we have a clearer picture of what's going to happen in the draft. So this the fan base should be excited. $62 million left.
Yeah, and it should be some of those guys like Colin Farrell and those guys who may not get taken yet. You can still re-sign them because they still want to be in this organization for less money, and
and whatnot.
And you still save yourself some money. And I want to go put something up Paul said too. It said, here it is. Joy, remember I said 2-team race. Now it's 3-team race. Rams got better today. Rams did get better today. The Rams
Bucks too.
Bucks got better today as well. So you see Washington moving along because they have competition. The schedule next year is not a cupcake schedule, right? But what we see, it is a schedule where you have to win football games, and this team is positioning themselves in a place to win football games. And we talked about it on this podcast for weeks. They did what they did last year, and it was what they was left with, not the players that everybody wanted in the house. Right, is what they had with, and they did miracles with what they had. And we knew this team wasn't going to be the same. We knew that there's some key players were going to be gone, but we knew that this team will be working and shaping, trying to prove to everyone that it wasn't just a one-hit wonder. Right, it wasn't a one-hit wonder. It wasn't Milli Vanilli. Right, they had more hits behind them, and this team is a contender for a long time. Right. And, we talk about contenders for a long time. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about this, right? I think I said it last week and people laughed, and Donna laughed at me. I told you guys the Myles Garrett thing was over, right? To leave it alone. I said leave it alone. Mo, I said leave it alone. It's over with.
That was one hell of a reversal. Money makes the world go round again. Goodness Christ.
Nobody's turning down $160 million and $123 guaranteed. Right?
Now
Washington wasn't going to pay that. And when Cleveland said they weren't going to let this man go, I knew what time it was. They're going to roll the Brinks truck, put it in front of his house. They would have built a mint in front of his house for him to print his own money. So he wouldn't leave Cleveland.
No, that was a fact. That was done for. That was done for. Man, that was done for. But the Commanders fans have to be excited. The team is shaping out. There's still a little bit of, like you said, plug and play guys that they got to go get. Once the roster starts to take form, we'll have a better idea of the draft, and then our draft. I expect our draft shows to be robust conversations over the possibilities after we see how this depth chart fills out.
Yeah. With that being said, Mo, what else do you want to see this Washington team? And same thing, George. What else do you want to see this Washington team get in free agency?
This Washington team has to get a safety. They have to get a DN. They have to get a safety. They have to get a DN. We don't know the plan for the draft, and it's hard to speak. We can talk in hypotheticals, but Justin Reed sitting out there. The longer he sits out there, that's going to be an interesting piece. If he's not signed by Wednesday, I think something can happen there because the $62 million dictates that they can get like a 2-year contract. 2 years, let's say 20, something's in the 20s, nothing more than that, you know what I mean? Something in the 20s. Mm-hmm. Low is 22, high is like 28, 28. I think that would be formidable because he is 28. You know, you don't want to prolong that and tie him into the Jayden Daniels contract years, right? Because we always have to think about that down the line because we know that's going to be the first $300 million man to come across the NFL.
But not only Jayden,
True.
not only Jayden, but you also got to sign Terry.
I mean, Terry being on the roster already and having a year, he's going to get extended, and his extension probably not going to hit till not this year, but the year after. So I'm not worried about Terry. As long as Terry's numbers are not super, I don't think Terry's going to have super astronomical numbers outside of the requisite 30 million. I think DK's contract is the floor, right? DK Metcalf's yearly average has got to be the floor at 30 million. Same amount of money Ayuk made last year after being All-Pro. DK made this 30 million because he has an All-Pro on his resume from 3 years ago with Russell Wilson. So 30 million will be the floor for Terry. If they're giving them some extra money for time served and the discounted contract that he's been playing on, then let's say they bump that up to 31, 32. Terry gets another 4 years, 3 or 4 years. They add that on. Terry gets to retire a commander. I think they'll figure that out, right? It'll be signing bonus heavy laden so that he can make money this year and next year. And because he can't run into the Jayden Daniels years either. So,
right.
So that is on the horizon. And I'm pretty sure Adam and company have already started those negotiations and whatnot. Terry seems to be enjoying his offseason, got married. And is traveling the world from what I can see on his Instagram. And I'm pretty sure we'll be hearing shortly that he is signed an extension to remain a commander for the foreseeable future. And Terry being the team person that he is, I'm not saying he's going to take a discount, but the contract will be friendly for the team it'll be spread out long enough for it to be friendly for the team.
Yep. I go, George. Todd said something else, man. I think the fan base has to look past names and concentrate more on the player's skill set. It's obvious that AP thought the team wasn't tough enough. New players fit the tough mindset. You know, what do you feel about not getting names? Because we had an owner, right, and a GM that went after names. They went after names. His whole time here, he went after names and didn't work. All right. Should we take Todd's advice? Should the Commanders take Todd's advice and go after people that we don't know their name, but they build in their name?
Go ahead, George.
I think Taj is spot on there when he's talking about AP didn't think they were tough enough. I mean, again, we keep referencing it, but we have to go back to that NFC title game and look at that and tell me what you think. I mean, that game, as terrible as it was confronting and you couldn't hide from it. You got bullied. You got your butt kicked all over the yard. I mean, it's as bad as it gets. And Adam Peters has looked. That's foremost in Adam Peters' mind. And in terms of what position I want to see them address, I'm in the same vein as Mo, but a different position. I want another cornerback. I want to bolster our depth at corner, mainly because even though the chances of him re-signing are so remote, I don't even want to. It shouldn't even be brought up, but I'm going to do it anyway. I just want to make sure that there's no chance that Benjamin St. Wegmans is here next year. So there's got to be another corner signed so that gentleman is not back in burgundy and gold, because I don't even want to think about that possibility that would happen.
I think this is the last time we say that dude's name on this podcast.
You're right.
His last name, but I don't think he's signing with this team. He's not coming back. I don't think so. I agree with you guys. Corner, safety. Justin Reed is looking for about $15 million, $15.5 million. That's the market value price. So look, the market value price for him.
If you gave it to Kinlaw, I see a world where you have to give it to him, right? Because he has high pedigree. So I think it could happen. It could happen. I don't know if it's the way that Adam wants to spend his money, because knowing Adam's history in San Francisco and how they put together their safeties over there, they drafted in the middle rounds. They got Hufanga, who signed with the Broncos today, and he's a former All-Pro when he was in San Francisco. The Taj Gibsons of the world, like they typically do their own work when it comes to the secondary, rather than paying for safety help, and I think a lot of people are going that way. So it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see.
And these two questions go together, and so I'm gonna put these two questions out there, and they go together. Here, this Ty says this: do you think the team needs more speed? And then Sean says this. Sean said, if Washington keeps the first round, no, if Washington keeps their first round pick, who do you guys like? And when you talk about speed, and you talk about who I like, I gotta go with everybody that says Travion Henderson at 29. I guess if you got your offensive lineman, if you're still working in free agency, to me, I like B. Rob. I like Austin Eckler. We talked about it on the podcast the other day. There's still no one offensively that has that breakaway speed, right? We finally saw Terry with the breakaway speed in the playoff game, but throughout the year, even with some of the screens, you didn't see that receiver or that cornerback or that running back really break one off. And there were some times that B. Rob, I believe B. Rob got caught down from one, a couple of this year that he had broke off and got caught in the back. He didn't score. So to me, 29 would be, in my eyes, would be, again, Travion. But anybody, and I think here it is, we also had a pass rusher, right? So get a pass rusher at 29. George, which one? Pass rusher or running back? Ronald said,
gosh, I mean,
Ronald said at 29, I like the best edge rusher available.
I was going to say, in part, because I think we're moving back, I can see us taking a running back at, say, 34, 35 potentially. Mm-hmm. But if we stay at 29, I think I'm where Ronald is. I think the best edge rusher at 29
has to go.
Probably is the move here. I think if they stay at 29, whoever the best edge is that's out there, I think we got to do it because, it's funny because, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Dante Fowler and, I guess he was mad online because certain people were getting contracts and he's like, well, I've done this, that, and the other. Yeah, you have. And everybody also saw the tape in the playoffs and what happened. So, sorry, Dante Fowler. Being a pass rush specialist is great. You might want to be in a different division than this one to be a pass rush specialist.
You gotta set the edge.
You gotta set the edge. I mean, does this team need to get faster? Absolutely. I think the position that they need to get the fastest at is running back, but that doesn't prioritize the running back for me. Not at 29 if they keep it. If they keep it, it has to be a DN. It has to be a game-changing DN, right? Now you brought in Kinlaw, right? You're not going to spend too much money in free agency at the DN position because all the guys are gone. I think the cheapest good one that was left was Hassan Reddick, but he would have came here with question marks and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think he was a culture fit. So it lends itself to believe that the team is going to try to keep 29 or try to be in that first wave of the first couple of picks of the second round if they trade back and still get one of the guys that can possibly come in. And it probably won't be somebody that's as much of a standout as a top 15 pick, but it'll be somebody with some tools, and then everybody else around them should help him get better, right?
Right.
And the scheme should help him get better. So, but if we're talking about where they need the most speed is the running back position, but this is the draft for a fast running back, right? And there are a lot of fast running backs across the board in terms of the rounds that you can select from. So the 10th fastest time at the scouting combine this year was a 4.44. And that was recorded by Donovan Edwards, a guy that a lot of people forgot about because Michigan took a slump this year compared to the national championship year. Mm-hmm. He was a big part of that. He was a two-headed monster with Blake Corum when they were at Michigan. He ran a 4.44. And he was the 10th fastest running back. So this is a draft full of speed. You have Jayden Blue out of Texas who came through at a 4.38. I don't see him as a top 5 running back. I don't see him as a top 6, 7, or 8 top running back, right? So he'll be there later on because he split a lot of carries in college. You have Rashad Smith out of SMU that ran 4.39. I think those are your 4th, 5th, 6th round kind of players. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of moves can be pulled to see if this team can jump back up and get somebody. But then also, when you're looking at guys like that, you're not looking at a starter, right? So B-Rob will probably still be the starter. These guys will be change of pace. But then that leaves the question as to what do you do with Eckler? I believe, and most people would want somebody that they think can come and challenge B-Rob for his position and still have that home run hitting speed. And if that's the case, it has to go back to your boy Travion Henderson. at some point in the second.
But it also goes to this question too, because Sean brought a good point, man. Not about him, but here it is. I wish why don't you give Chris Rodriguez a shot? He could be that guy. Chris is not slow.
At running back one, that's a lot. That's a lot to put on his shoulders. So running back one,
it's a lot. But he's been around. Why is this team hanging on to him? Right? If you're not trying to give him a fair shot to be running back one, why hang on to him?
I think that he's more. I do. He does have speed, but I think his physicality is what keeps him on the team. Because every time B-Rob went down or B-Rob was nicked, he was called up, right? Because I feel like the way that Cliff Kingsbury uses his running backs, or he needs his second and third running backs to be the McNichols of the world, the Austin Eckler's, he needs them to be a big part of the pass game. And I don't know that Chris Rodriguez could be used in the pass game as efficiently and adequately as most people would need or want. So I think that's the reason why Chris Rodriguez is not the one that gets picked up.
I will say again, I thought he deserved more of a chance than he got at the end of the season, because you were rightly talking about how he performed when he called up. He answered the bell pretty much every time. And I just, and given B-Rob's struggles at the end of the season, I had a hard time with saying, why wouldn't you try something else? Because you got to try something else when your main guy is struggling. And I hope he's not just a camp body. I hope he actually gets a fair go at trying to win a job with this team, because, that guy, considering it's a different regime, it's a different offense, it's a different everything in Washington. Every time he was called upon, he gave you everything he got, and he was a good player for us last year.
That's a fact. It's hard to argue, and I see why a lot of people want him to have an opportunity.
Right.
That's just a lot of responsibility for a lower round guy that that has been on the cut. He's been on practice squad here and back. He's a serviceable back, but responsibility is a responsibility. Pressure bust pipes. You know what I mean? That's a whole different way when you're the one that has to do everything, and the defense is not keying in on you.
Hey, Santiago Bond says this. Chris is super cheap. Chris is super cheap for the team, which is totally true. Paul says this. Chris is a backup, right? Yeah. He said Chris is a backup. He is definitely not a starter. I believe
the starter.
He held it down for us in the Atlanta game.
I believe the starter is a backup. In all honesty, I've been saying that about him, but I think that there's just not a better guy yet in the position. So, you know what I mean? I really do think that B-Rob's best suited to be a running back by committee running back.
Got you. Man, and like I said, ladies and gentlemen, big news today. This team today, Mo. Before we get up out of here, as day one come to conclusion for us on the show, because there still could be some deals later on. But as we get ready to rock out of here, what do you give the Washington Commanders? What's their grade for day one? Guys in the chat, drop it too. What is the Commanders' grade for day one? What grade do you give the Washington Commanders today for day one of free agency?
This is a B plus, big B plus. Only reason I didn't give it an A is because Kinlaw cost $15 million. If Kinlaw would have cost something like 10 or 8 per year, I think that we'd be having a different conversation. But I'm gonna give it a B plus. You got an all pro tackle. He gives you position. He locks down a position. He gives you some versatility with another player on the team, Brandon Coleman, and moves him to another position. So he helps fortify them. His one move has fixed 2 positions, right? So there's value there. Depending on what you sign him for, would dictate whether it could be an A. But like right now, I give it a B plus. And Kinlaw comes in and he does what he's supposed to do. I think just off those 2 moves today, I have to give him a B plus.
George, what'd you give him?
I'm pretty close to where Mo is. It's because it's a good start, and it's only a good start. I'm not going to go with B plus, but it's a very solid B. It's a very good beginning, and I think certainly the trend is towards B plus or A with what they're doing, because we know they're not standing pat. We know more moves are coming. I think we've got a fairly good idea of how the draft's going to go. So I'm pretty optimistic for the rest. So I'm in a solid B. Not too far away from a B plus or an A.
All right, let's share some in the chat. Paul gives the Commanders an A- today. Give them an A-. Sean gives the ball a B. Give the Commanders a B+. First String Podcast gives them a C+. Man, drop in the chat. Why do you give them a C+?
Come on, C+. Come on, C+.
See, I'm curious. No argument here. Yo, your grade. I just want to know. Just give us a reason behind it. Santiago gives them an A- today. Ronald, go ahead and give them a B. Right. Sean says this. He says they protected a franchise today, which they did. They protected a franchise guy, a franchise player. They protected Jayden Daniels today. Here it is. Paul says this. Kinlaw dropped to an A-.
That's Paul out here giving participation trophies.
Here he goes. First Sugar Podcast answer. He said we didn't get stronger on the defense today. Don't like the Kinshaw move. And to me, they said when he said he didn't get stronger on defense, that's a lot of argument from a lot of people. Is that Kinlaw did not make this defense better. You get rid of Jonathan Allen, would you pick up Kinlaw? Did not make the defense better.
Kinlaw is cheaper. Kinlaw is younger. Kinlaw should probably come in and help because he's more of a bigger body. He should probably come in and be a little bit more stout against the run. If you saw anybody run the football against the Commanders last year, you have to think that this is somewhat of a plus.
Yeah.
That is the one gaping thing that anybody can look at on this team last year and have questions about was the run game.
I have a question for First String Podcast because I'm very interested in his view on this. Would your grade go up if it was Payne that was out and Kinlaw was replacing him? That's kind of that's where I would be because I know how I know how you feel about it, Mo. I'm not sure how Glenn feels about that, but I'd be interested to know what First String Podcast feels similar and would have preferred it was Payne going out and Kinlaw replacing Payne because that I wonder if that would change the grade at all.
It could be, my jury. I'm out on Kinlaw right now until we get into maybe training camp or we get.
You got to see him.
Right. My theory is out. I think so many times we look at things off of past history and what people have done, but we know from last year. There's some players who came to this organization last year and stepped their game up.
Mm-hmm.
They played much better. Look at a Frankie Louvu or Jeremy Chin, right? Jeremy Chin, what he did at Washington's got him paid today. Let's be honest. So there's some guys that, we got to see them play. And so right now the jury is out on Kinlaw. I want to see him stay healthy, first of all. If he can stay healthy, and that works out well.
Yeah,
all right?
I don't think we're without questions about Kinlaw. So, that's the only reason I gave it a B+. Because Laremy Tunsil, that's an A move. That's an A move. If you can get a perennial All-Pro or Pro Bowl tackle, you do that. You do that, especially with a rookie quarterback. You protect his blind side. You help fortify that, especially when your rookie was efficient. And Commanders got better today.
Here it is. Let's see what else we got here. Yes, Deluxe says this: don't overpay for a box safety. All right, not to discredit Chin. Yeah, great. Don't overpay.
Can I ask a question? Wouldn't does that make Percy Butler the next one up if no move is made there?
It would. I mean, Percy Butler's been with the team 4 years now, George? 3 or 4 years, if I'm not mistaken.
You see where I'm
4
going
years,
with this,
I think.
Yeah.
You see where I'm going with this, George?
It's
no, I do, and I think that's why you make a very good point when you say that's the next thing that needs to be done.
You don't like that? You don't like the idea of giving him a shot?
Oh, I love the idea of giving him a shot.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, oh gosh, I see. This is the problem. I don't want to let what happened under Ron Rivera color how I feel about players because I know that's not fair to them. And I'm letting, and I know I'm letting that. I know I'm being unfair to Percy Butler by saying that. I know that, and I'm trying. I shouldn't, but yeah, I unfortunately that colors it. By the way, well, First String Podcast brings up Derek Forrest. I can't see Derek Forrest being back.
Nah.
The coaching staff just didn't vibe with him, and that was that. I do think it's interesting. He did respond to my question, and he said it would not have changed the grade if it was Allen, if it was Payne going out instead of Allen. So
yeah, it's definitely not Defoe because we know Defoe was inactive a lot, and there was nothing wrong with him last year. Very much inactive, and
he's a
very
healthy
much
scratch.
inactive list last year a lot. Paul says this. He said we have to get height. Yeah, he got to get the speed and height, but man, he can't play that position. I guess he's talking about Percy Butler. All right, I said I trade. Ronald said he would trade Percy.
Ooh.
I don't know. I don't know what the value for Percy is right now.
I'm about to say that's a tough. Yeah, y'all are a tough.
That's a tough trade. We got all the other safeties out there, and you got other people that's on the board. That's a tough trade. Washington, I don't know what they can get for. Truth be told, and I think that's what Washington thought they couldn't get nothing for Jonathan Allen. There was no takers, which is crazy.
That's the other thing. And Jonathan Allen's a player of some renown who's produced in this league, and they could not find a trade market for him. I think that tells you everything. It is tough out here trying to make deals. And, Deebo, the only reason they got a fifth out of us is that they took the cap hit. They took the
money.
Cap.
Yeah, the money.
Yeah, they ate the money on that one. And and that's the other thing. And somebody said it in the chat, and it's true. We got Laremy Tunsil and didn't have to give up a first-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's pretty remarkable for a guy of that caliber playing that position.
What about a guy like Andre Cisco, number 5 from the Jacksonville Jaguars, big body, made some plays. He's 25 years old.
Right.
He's like the same. He comes in. He has the same kind of frame as Jeremy Chin. Plays in the same kind of area. Jeremy Chin was not. Jeremy Chin wasn't known to be. I mean, he forced a couple of turnovers, but it wasn't like they were in abundance. He's a good tackler. Somebody that can fill the role and be a player there. And hopefully with the change of scenery and the offense, the defense stepping up, he can be a formidable player as he was in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think those level kind of guys can come in and fill in that Jeremy Chin role, especially with the way that Jeremy Chin was employed on the defense last year.
I mean, we're headed for a pretty good turnover of the roster again. So there's probably another even if they're considered minor signings, there's probably another 8 or 9 or 10 coming, isn't there? Yeah. When we're looking at this, even if a lot of them are at the back of the market.
Back of the market, back of the line, but you're coming into an organization that's changed some things. Paul said this, so right now we have one safety. That is true.
There you go.
But
it absolutely amplifies Mo's point on what needs to be done next.
Definitely need to get to safety there, but we'll see. We're still working. Hopefully, some things may get done overnight. By the time we wake up in the morning, there'll be some more news to talk about with the Washington Commanders. Hey, if it's more news to talk about, we'll be here again to tell you about all of it. We'll talk about it. We'll discuss it. Thank y'all for rocking with us tonight, man. We appreciate you guys. Those that are new to the channel, you watching us, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification. We drop podcasts every week. For All Burgundy and Gold, everything. We love this Commanders team. And we're talking about the Commanders, right? Had to jump on today because the free agency was so big. Laremy Tunsil, with Javon, Kinlaw. It was big. And all the guys that signed, Zach Ertz, the Bobby Wagners that are coming back, which is key for this team. It's big right now. The Crestways coming back is big. Zane Gonzalez, you can take it or leave it, whichever way that it is. But this team is shaping up to be a contender for a long time. And this was just day one, y'all. We got Deebo Samuels. We got Laremy Tunsil. Bobby Wagner's back. Zach Ertz back. Javon Kinlaw. Day one. Let's see what happens tomorrow, man. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Thanks for rocking with us. Make sure you go to your podcast platform, right? Whether it's us, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to us on Stitcher, right? Wherever you listen to us and search All Burgundy and Gold, everything, right? Make sure you subscribe to us. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, hit that bell notification so when we pop on, it could be a middle of the day update. We want you to hop on with us so we can talk about what the Washington Commanders are doing in free agency. For Mo, take us home, man.
Hey, man. So subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and other platforms. Just search All Burgundy and Gold, everything. Also tweet us at ABG_everything and hit us up on IG and TikTok at ABG_everything. Make sure y'all also subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you like this video. You guys have been listening to All Burgundy and Gold, everything powered by the Urban Sports Scene and Fox Sports Radio 96.9 FM and 1340 AM, Hopewell, Virginia. We are All Burgundy and Gold, everything. Thanks for listening tonight. Deuces.
Peace.